Meet your new go-to for a fresh and inclusive approach to health.
Wellness Rebranded is the pod where a dietitian, a personal trainer, and a mental health therapist combine perspectives to help you redesign your relationship with food, fitness, and your feelings.
Whether we're serving up juicy stories, breaking down the latest research, or dropping practical tips, we'll leave you informed, inspired, and ready to take health-promoting action.
We get you because we are you.
We've joined forces because we know that health isn't one-dimensional, and neither are you.
Tune in for real talk that cuts through the wellness and diet culture hype. Stay for the laughs, the insights, and the feel-good vibes. Hey, it's Elizabeth. I want to tell you about a free 3-day challenge I'm hosting called Why Am I Eating This? If you struggle with mindless or emotional eating, or you find yourself wondering why you're eating, even when you know you're not hungry or that the things you're choosing are going to make you feel terrible, this free day 3 challenge is for you. Over the course of 3 days, I'm going to show you the steps to distinguish between physical and emotional hunger. I'm going to show you how you can uncover hidden triggers behind your eating and help you grow your self-awareness so that you can shift deeply rooted eating patterns that no longer serve you and learn to eat with greater intention and care. The challenge is free. It will last for 3 days. You can sign up at the link in the show notes. It kicks off October 14th.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of Wellness Rebranded. This episode was inspired because I saw on a Facebook moms group recently, somebody had posted, hey, I need help losing weight. What have you guys done? And all of the comments were people saying, oh, I lost this many pounds by doing this, but then I gained it all back. And every comment, there was like 100 comments, and every comment was like, oh, I did this, but I've gained some of it back, or I did this, but I've gained all of it back. So we kind of wanted to talk about that today and kind of like rebrand what success looks like through all of our different unique perspectives.
Yeah, and how we define it.
Yeah.
Great topic. So I think we should just start off with that echoes so much of what the research shows, right? That yes, people, and actually I have a really interesting story about this. The research shows that yes, pick a diet, any diet, most diets out there, people do lose weight in the short term, but they don't keep it off in the long term. As we see this weight loss, often, not always, people don't always lose weight, but in the grander scheme of things, people usually do lose weight in the short term, but not in the long term. And the messaging out there, well, first of all, I think it's really important to understand how a lot of the weight loss research is done, which is that, and going back to that episode we did with Reagan Chastain, it's like a great resource.
Great episode.
Yeah.
But a lot of times the research is cut off at 12 weeks or 16 weeks or 3 months or possibly 6 months on the long side, where the graph stops, where people have lost the weight, right? But they're not reporting on it 6 months later, 12 months later, 3 years later, 5, 10 years later. And if they were, and when we are able to look at it that way, we see that people regain the weight. And just recently, I was speaking with someone who participated in a very highly monitored research study at Stanford University. And it was all about modifying, very calorically restricted diet, also restricted in what you were allowed to eat, what you weren't allowed to eat. There was very strict regimens for how much you were supposed to exercise. And they were trying to study sort of like what would make the behavior stick, in a sense. So it wasn't necessarily like they were trying to measure weight loss. They were trying to measure, I think the person said, different elements of what would make the behavior stick. But what jumped out to me about the whole thing is that the person said he felt terrible while he was doing it because he was under eating, over exercising, and he did lose a lot of weight, but when it was over, he actually gained all that weight back, plus a significant amount more. And the study stopped after whatever it was, 12, 16 weeks. And I said, oh gosh, But did they follow up with you at all after that? Nope, never heard from them again. And yet it was supposed to be measuring what would make the behaviors stick. How on earth could you measure that if you weren't following it up long term? Right?
Wow, that's a
Yeah.
design flaw.
Yeah, so, but it was just like such a real world example of what we all sort of know from the research anyway. But yeah, but for all those people who commented on that post that have had that experience, that is what the research shows, and the weight loss industry gaslights us essentially and convinces us that when you see that short-term weight loss, that it's succeeding, their program is working. And that when you see that rebound, biological, physiological, psychological rebound where you regain weight, that you've done something wrong,
It's
right?
your fault.
Yeah, it's not that that was a flawed program.
Well, and
It is, but it's not what they.
it also fits into a need, or I don't know if a need, but something that most human beings go after, which is quick fixes.
Yes.
That instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
It's so you feel that it is changing, but then it's not, like you were saying, it's not long term, but we confuse, oh, but I did change. Well, did it really?
Yeah, was it a healthy, sustainable change? And at what cost did it come from, right? When I was speaking to this person, for example, they were able to kind of very clearly outline for me, and I felt like this, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and now they're working with me on their relationship with food, right? But we're not used to thinking about at what cost is it coming, right? Can you go out with friends? Is it impacting your social health? Is it, how's your digestion on that? Or is it making you feel out of control around food? Is it leading to guilt or binging, right?
Yeah. How much like mental space is this taking up for your life?
Yeah.
Are you obsessing over food all the time? Are you worried about if you can or can't eat something? Are you feeling guilty or shameful about it? Like, what if you just felt nothing and you were just eating and that
Not
was
if you
it?
felt nothing, but what if you felt peaceful and you were eating confidently and
Yeah.
nourishing your body in a way that did and felt good?
It'd be great to not have that like constant chatter,
Angst.
the angst. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why healing the relationship with food is so powerful. But what else jumped out at you in that conversation that you saw?
For me, like the main thing that I noticed is nobody was like, oh, I started going to the gym. Like that wasn't even part of the conversation. Everybody was naming like diets that they had done or medications that they had taken, and one person even did like hypnosis, which was kind of interesting to me. But nobody was like, oh, I started going to the gym and did hours of exercise every week. We know that's not a great way to lose weight, right? That's not effective. It's great for health. It's great for mental health. It's great for all sorts of things. But like in terms of like intentional weight loss, exercise isn't a great way to do it because we burn so few calories doing exercise that it just doesn't mathematically even make sense, let alone from a wellness standpoint, but nobody discussed like healthy behaviors. Nobody
Yeah.
talked about like, oh, I started getting more sleep at night, or I started seeing a therapist to address some of my mental health issues, or I started trying to eat a wider variety of foods. They talked about what they eliminated from their diets.
Yeah.
Or I
You
try
know?
to lower my stress levels, which is also linked to how you store things in your body and the foods that you choose or whatever, and even how you assimilate.
And it also jumps out at me that I was actually just having this conversation with a client yesterday. If someone does one of those diets or programs, right? And often they will report feeling better, right? And I'm not discounting that. They probably do feel better, or they may feel better in some ways, but it's really common for people to link it to it's because my weight is dropping. That's what's making me feel better, without realizing, well, yeah, but maybe when you're doing this program, you've introduced more movement to your life. Maybe you've introduced more nutrient dense foods. Maybe you were someone who just didn't eat on a regular schedule before and now you are. Maybe you're carving out time to just focus on yourself a little bit and that feels good. And so I think the more we can kind of like tease it apart, right? And stop attributing it only to the fact that weight went down and look at it more of what behaviors have you introduced and what impact are they having on you and your life.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a client yesterday who comes to see me for half an hour a week. And she's only been coming for like 3 weeks. She's new. And she was saying, oh, I just feel so much better. My body feels better. My brain feels better. Like, I just love what I'm doing here. And I started thinking about that and like, yes, 90 minutes of exercise is great. But over the course of 3 weeks, it's not a ton, right? Like, is her body actually getting stronger, healthier, more endurance, better, power, whatever? Maybe, but like in very minuscule levels at this point, right? But I think there's something to be said for like the mental idea that like I'm doing something for myself, that I'm improving my health by doing this thing. Just the mental switch of going, yes, I'm prioritizing myself
Yeah.
speaks volumes
Taking
to our
action.
body.
Yeah,
Yes.
taking action, I'm prioritizing myself, I'm carving out time that I'm not doing something different, right?
Yes,
Just focusing on me. There's huge mental health benefits to that.
100%.
And also, when we feel better, we choose better, right? So it sort of has these beautiful like snowball effects of maybe the fact that she's coming to the gym with you 3 times a week actually inspires her to go to bed 30 minutes earlier and get a little bit more sleep. Or I don't know. I know when I, for example, start out my day with a health behavior that feels good to me, I kind of want to keep it going
Yeah.
during the day.
I notice when I exercise early in the day, I want to eat differently throughout the day. Whereas, like, if I didn't exercise, it would be easy for me to choose things that were more processed, more like hyper palatable. When I exercise, like, I find that I like crave like the fruits and veg more than I do normally.
I mean, maybe this is taking things on a tangent here, but it makes me think of even our emotions. Like if we want quick fixes for our emotions, and let's say that there's a plan out there, I start selling a plan that say, let's repress your emotions so you can keep going with your day to day and they don't slow you down. And then people's like, yeah, I want to do that because I've been feeling sad for a while.
My money.
Yeah, and then
Take my sadness.
and then in the long run, it might, just like you were saying before, these emotions might come even stronger because we didn't process, we didn't work
I
through
mean,
it.
doesn't that in fact happen in real life? Like,
Yes,
Yeah.
it does,
people who
but
are-
but there's no plan out
There's-
there yet.
there's no magic
So-
pill.
right. But it is, I mean, is it, do you guys see it that yes, we do want the easy way out? I mean, when somebody says change it, that relationship with yourself is going to take effort and it's going to take a redefinition of how you've been doing things. It's like, oh, do I want to do that? I'd rather take the pill.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, who among us wouldn't want the faster fix to feeling better if it's available, right? But I think it may be faster, but it's not necessarily long term.
Of course, but it's like,
It's not necessarily healthy, right? Depend whatever we might.
but
be
once
talking
we recognize that, then we can see it and say, I want to put the effort because I'm really going to enjoy the results long term. It's going to be a
Yeah.
true change. It's like therapy. People sometimes, I only want 4 sessions. I want this to be fixed. That's not what therapy is. I'm bringing therapy into this, but is that effort that we have to put in for such a big reward at the end.
And also, I think like it is, I always tell, I don't know if I've given this analogy on the pod before or not, but one thing I always share with people about the intuitive eating journey, it's a huge pet peeve of mine when people try to say it's like the easy way out or giving up or letting yourself go. It's actually not. It's way harder than dieting. And I always give people the analogy that intuitive eating is like learning a new language, right? It's a new self-care language, a new language of your relationship with food, with your body, with your mind. And in the beginning, it's harder. it's way harder than dieting. If someone gives you a diet, your motivation is high, your willpower is high, you have a plan, you have a hope for where it's gonna get you, you feel really good that you're making these changes. And
Mhm.
dieting gets harder over time because it's, you know, you're counting, you're tracking, you're measuring, you're missing the foods you love, you're trying to fit it into real life, holidays, vacations, all the things. It gets harder over time. Intuitive eating starts out harder because you have no idea, you don't yet trust yourself with food. You don't yet feel connected to your body. You don't yet know what feels good and doesn't feel good. And you have to focus so hard to kind of like, what is the person saying? What's the language? How do I conjugate the verb? How do I, you know, say this sentence? How, like, you're in your mind doing both. But then over time, there's this point where it clicks and it becomes easier. And that, so it's like more, I guess what I'm trying to say, and I'm sure it's the same for mental health, is yes, it's more hard work up front, but it becomes easier as the healing happens.
Yes.
It's nothing like fitness. When fitness becomes easier, we just change it to make it hard again.
You fitness people are so mean, and Tara does that to me every day in our training session.
No, but it's true, your muscle gets used to it and it's time to bump it up,
That's
right?
right.
It's like, yeah, agree.
This whole conversation makes me think of the quote that we've talked about before, where we say that exercise gives you the confidence that you think weight loss will.
I love that book.
You know, it's so fitting because nobody in those comments was like, hey, I want to feel better about my body. Nobody addressed that aspect of it, but that's what everybody wanted.
Yeah.
They wanted to feel comfortable in their body. They wanted to feel comfortable in their clothes and be confident with who they are as a human being. But what they said was, I want weight loss,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I know it's easy. I mean, I think I want weight loss all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that pops up for me frequently.
Yeah.
I think life would be easier in a smaller body, but it still wouldn't give me the confidence that I want, right? Exercise and movement and practice gives you that.
I always think of that quote. I don't know who said it, if it's Audrey Hepburn or someone that probably, I think, from that era of like, wherever you go, there you are. And like, sure, maybe you lost weight, but there you are. You still have the
Yeah.
same insecurities, the same
Mhm.
feelings, the same relationship with food or your emotions or fitness or whatever it is. Like, yes, your physical size changed, but your inside is still you. Right.
Mhm.
And you might, Brianna Campos does a great job of explaining the difference. Like, yes, you may have more body confidence in that scenario because now you're in a body that is perhaps more socially acceptable, but that's not the same as having body peace.
Yes.
Because it's still predicated on you having a certain size.
Standard. And
Yeah, on meeting the standard. There's still the pressure to keep it there, to maintain it, to, you know, try to exist in that space, right? To that ideal versus truly separating your worth, your value, your belonging, your sense
From
of
that.
self and confidence from how your body looks. Then it doesn't matter what it looks like, you still have those things inside.
Mhm.
How freeing would it feel to let go of those standards?
So freeing. And also it's
Like I hear you
so
talk and I
hard.
already
Yeah.
feel like, oh yes, it feels way less heavy when you let that go.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned peace, and yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's hard and it's a practice, right?
And
Because we still wake up every morning in the world with the same messaging and standards.
I agree. And I think a message today is, yes, it is hard, but so worth it.
Yeah.
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 Let's validate that it's really hard. It's going to take effort, time, practice, energy, mind space, all of it, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, do you have any like tips for helping with that?
Helping with which part specifically?
Like tips to feel more confident in your body and to forget about the intentional weight loss?
Sure. I think first of all, to bring it full circle, it really starts with evaluating your relationship with dieting and looking at it with fresh eyes. Like if you've experienced that up and down, yo weight gain, weight loss, was that really successful? And at what cost to your physical, like what physical symptoms may you have experienced? What mental, what emotional things may have happened? What social things may have happened? So that you at least are looking at that part of the pursuit with fresh eyes. I think, of course, anything you can do to quiet the diet culture influences in your life is going to be hugely helpful.
Huge.
Very difficult to wake up and feel good about yourself if you're just being bombarded with weight loss messaging. It's all you hear is the people around the water cooler talking about their latest diet. It's every time you get together with girlfriends, everyone's bashing their bodies and complaining about their weight. So like think about the inputs. And then I guess, I mean, of course, this is like, years worth of work that, we're trying to encapsulate in 3 tips, but I guess to give a third quick tip, I would say start to think about what makes you you. What are the things that you appreciate about yourself and that others appreciate about you that have absolutely nothing to do with your appearance? So your character, your personality, your skills, your talents, your values. Like on your tombstone, I don't think any of us care that it's going to say she weighed X pounds. But we might care that it says something like she had a kind and generous heart or was a devoted mother or whatever it is.
She made us feel this way when we were
Yeah.
around her. Yes, she
Yeah.
had this kind of impact in my life, positive impact. Yes, you know what? You made me think, Elizabeth, 2 things I've never thought before. One, how cool would it be to journal during this process, while you're going through, let's say, following a diet, and when you're not, just to see if there's a difference on how you felt going through this, how you felt the other, just like you coming with fresh eyes, like see what's really the internal process, and really think about your why.
Yeah.
Why am I going after weight loss? What is my why?
Yeah, so I want to give it a quick example of that. I always try to get people to think weight loss is a surface goal, like, right? We desire weight loss, but exactly what you just said. Why? What is the weight loss going to do for you? And sometimes people will say, well, it's really, it comes, I'll feel more confident, or, I have a health goal, or I, want to be able to keep up with my grandkids, or, whatever. And you can do the 5 whys of like, well, why is that important to you, right? And why is that important to you? Try to get to that. What's that true core thing? And often it comes down to like belonging, worthiness, value. And then the second question is to ask yourself, is weight loss the only way that you can get that thing, right?
Or even the first way,
Yeah,
before you try other stuff and then reevaluate if that's even in your
yeah.
list.
Like, it's so common for like to use that, well, I want to be able to keep up with my grandkids, or, well, okay, that's actually taking it to a realm of like physical strength, right? Or cardiovascular
Flexibility.
strength.
Right, mobility.
Mobility. So actually, you don't have to focus on weight loss to increase your mobility or your cardiovascular or your physical strength. You can focus on the things that will build that. It may inevitably lead to weight loss depending on your starting point,
Sure.
but those are the things that can actually help you, right? Same thing, like if it's that you feel unworthy at in your current body, well, you don't have to change your body to feel more worthy, right? You can work on that, your relationship with yourself and your feelings, and re-establishing where you get that sense of worthiness.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I hope you guys kind of gleaned some insights from our experience reading this Facebook post.
Yeah.
And I hope that it kind of helps you reconsider why we might have some of the desires that we have, and that Elizabeth's 3 tips will help you through your life. And we would love to continue this conversation and hear from you. So follow us on Instagram at Wellness Rebranded, and let us know what your favorite part of the episode was. Take a screenshot of the episode and share it with your people and tag us in it. We would love to start the conversation and hear what you have to say to us.
Thank you for listening. If you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me on Instagram at coaching_therapist.
I'm Elizabeth. You can find me at Elizabeth Harris Nutrition or in my Facebook group, Health and Healing with Intuitive Eating.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Tara DeLeon Fitness. Guys, if you loved this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcast. It really, really helps us get the non-diet word out to the rest of the world. So please leave us a review.
Yes, thank you.